Guys, welcome into my official college football week number 4 survival guide, going over everything you need to know when it comes to college football week 4. Let's get right into it. Kicking it off with the game of the week, and I'm actually going with a game between two teams that are unranked. Minnesota at Michigan State. BTN actually has this game. Hilarious, but I would assume it's because Michigan State lost last week. It kind of takes the sting out of it. But if Minnesota wins this game, I'm 99% sure they are going to be inside the top 25. They've got a really nice running back tandem, the veteran quarterback in Tanner Morgan. This is a make or break game for Minnesota football. 50-50 type, very winnable on the road against the Michigan State team that struggles to cover. The good thing for Michigan State, Minnesota really doesn't have, amazing receivers that can stretch the field. So, I think Michigan State might have opened as a 1-point favorite. Now it's Minnesota -2. Should be a really good game. And I think for the Big Ten, if you are a fan of the conference, you want Minnesota to win this game. You want Minnesota to be propped up. We already are expecting Michigan State to lose to Michigan, to lose to Ohio State, to probably lose to Penn State. So they're already going to have multiple losses. Getting Minnesota, maybe with one loss going into the Big Ten Championship, top 15, top 12 type team, that will be key for the conference's strength. So maybe I should have put this as under the radar game, but there's just no great games this week. The only other choices would be like SEC matchups that are Florida, Tennessee, that's like a 10.5 point spread. I don't know. Worst game, Hawaii at New Mexico State. Yes. We're going to get a few of these this year. So these two teams definitely in contention to be the worst team in FBS. Also, FIU is in contention. UConn. So there's a lot of really bad teams, but Hawaii and New Mexico State by far a worst game between two FBS opponents this week. Under the radar game, USC at Oregon State. So this quite literally is an under the radar game. It's on the Pac-12 network at 9:30 Eastern. That's a 6:30 Pacific time start in Oregon. And they're expecting a ton of points in this game. I've got it at 45-42 USC winning, and they kind of control the game, but Oregon State comes back. Guys, if you don't know, Oregon State is 3-0, and they do have 2 quality wins. So if they get this win against USC, they will vault probably inside the top 15 with a 4-0 start. Overrated game, I would say it's Clemson at Wake Forest. They're kind of advertising this as the big ABC noon matchup. I think it's going to be boring. I think Wake Forest should not be ranked. I think Clemson's a broken program. Both of these teams, you look at Wake Forest, no run game, completely one-dimensional against an extremely good Clemson defense. That spells disaster. And then Clemson really with their quarterback situation. DJ Uiagalelei, at some point, you got to say it's not working. We will see, but what I've seen from Clemson's offense, it's more of the same as last year. Will Shipley is improved. He was a 5-star. He looks better his second year, obviously, but still, this is a game. I think it's the battle of the overrateds. Both of these teams are overrated. I don't think Clemson's a top 10 team. They certainly have a top 5 defense, but the offense is so bad, and then Wake Forest is just completely one-dimensional. Next, we've got Breakout Player Watch. I'm going with Cade Stover, and this is a very unique kid. Kind of like a mini Rob Gronkowski, Gronk 2.0, if you will, for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Really, the only OSU tight end I've seen in my life that actually runs routes 15 to 20 yards down the field, and he'll get the spotlight this week, 7:30 on ABC against Wisconsin. We'll see if he does anything. I'd like to see them, maybe if Ohio State gets near the goal line, throw a goal line fade to him and see how he does in that situation. He seems to have really good hands for as tall as he is, and he's got that weird mobility, Gronk-like mobility, where he's really big, but he's kind of agile. It's an interesting combination. Ohio State has not had a tight end like this in a while, or really ever, honestly. honestly. Highest scoring game, I'm going Rice at Houston. It's just got a vibe where I could see Houston breaking out and maybe Rice scoring some garbage time touchdowns against the bad Houston defense. I think it's going to be higher scoring in my opinion. Lowest scoring game, this is a Friday night game. It's Boise State at UTEP. UTEP's offense is one of the worst in FBS. Boise State is nothing to write home about either. I believe Boise State is 16-point favorites on the road, and it's just got that Friday night Mountain West vibe, low scoring. I think the over-under is like 48 in this one. I think it'll be really low. Under the radar upset. So this really isn't even under the radar anymore, but I do think Arizona will beat California. Cal opened as a 5-point favorite. The line has been bet down to 3. I think Arizona wins that game. Not really an upset. They're only 3-point underdogs, but Arizona's just a better team. I know Cal almost beat Notre Dame, but, I mean, let's be honest, Notre Dame's not very good. That really doesn't impress me very much. Moving on, the biggest question, can Washington State make the jump? Yes, Washington State, 3-0, big win against Wisconsin. You get Oregon at home. You're 7-point underdogs. Oregon coming off that major win against BYU. This could be the launching point for Washington State. It would be, well, actually, really, either of these teams winning, whether it's Oregon or Washington State, will probably help the Pac-12 because if Oregon wins again, they're probably going to move inside the top 12. But if Washington State wins and they start out 4-0, that would be amazing. This is the really jumping point for their program. Huge game at home against Oregon as 7-point underdogs. Weather games. We've got New Mexico at LSU. Yes, we've got some thunderstorms in the forecast for that one, guys. Take the under. Weirdest matchup, we're going to go Western Michigan traveling to San Jose State. What? Kind of a weird matchup there. MAC school going out west to San Jose State. That's a 10:30 game. I'm not sure who's going to have the coverage on that. Maybe it's ESPN3. I don't know, honestly. The dullest matchup, yes, the SEC orgy. That is Missouri at Auburn. That is a noon game. No thanks. No thanks. Sneaky shootout. I think I'm always going to put Marshall in the sneaky shootout category. I just feel like Marshall this year is going to be involved in a lot of high-scoring close games. They're at Troy this week. Troy is coming off that devastating loss to Appalachian State, and I think this game has potential to be, I don't know, maybe 35-34, 42-38, something like that. Heisman statement, I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud, 5 passing touchdowns versus Wisconsin. So C.J. Stroud really gets the spotlight on ABC. And guys, apparently Wisconsin is without 2 of their starting cornerbacks. This is a situation where CJ can really run it up. He's already got 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. You know, Bryce Young is kind of falling out of the race due to his, weapons around him. I'm sure he'll put up big numbers against Vanderbilt, but it seems like right now at the top, it's C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams, and this could be a game where C.J. Stroud against a team that is wounded, throws for 4 or 5 touchdowns in prime time with really high ratings, and Ohio State blows out Wisconsin. He would take firm control of the Heisman race. Of course, it is very, very early. He's still going to have to play well at Penn State, at Michigan State, versus Michigan, versus Iowa. Right, he's still got several games that he's going to have to play well in, but this could be an early jumping point for his Heisman Trophy campaign. Game I'll never watch, UConn at NC State. So this game actually is on ESPN3, so I certainly will not watch it, but yeah, if you're NC State, that's got to be a little disappointing. If you're a fan of NC State football and you're a top 15, top 20 team finally, and the game is on ESPN3, it is against UConn. You're 39-point favorites. You're going to win easily, but still. And then the weird fact, the last time Iowa played at Rutgers on the road in New Jersey was in 2016, so 6 years ago. It's kind of a weird scheduling quirk, the Big Ten East versus Big Ten West. I was thinking, when is the last time Iowa has traveled to Rutgers? And guys, I haven't checked the over-under on that game since yesterday, but when I saw it, it was like 35.5. It's just crazy. The Iowa and Rutgers, that game may close, almost breaking the Army-Navy. I think Army and Navy might have the record for the lowest over-under. It might be like 33 or 34. That game is at 35.5 right now. It's getting dangerously close, although I wouldn't expect it to go down anymore. Rutgers came off, I think they're coming off like a 17-14 win against Temple, so they've got a very bad offense themselves. And then the final page, the low-key important game. So TCU at SMU. This is a noon game, I believe, on ESPN2, I want to say, the noon time slot. And this was a pick'em. SMU is now trending as 1.5-point favorites, but TCU, a weird week 3 bye, so they're only 2-0. SMU is kind of a highly regarded team. They're 2-1. They had a very tough loss, a higher scoring loss to Maryland last week, one possession game. Who can get back on track? Very close game here, going to be very interesting. Big game for TCU. If they can go on the road and go to 3-0, they might be sniffing the top 25. Game I hate for no reason. Northern Illinois at Kentucky. Yeah, I mean, I could also choose the Ole Miss game. Really, Kentucky has a horrible non-conference schedule. And, you just see every single week, it's Youngstown State, it's Northern Illinois. I think week 1 they faced no one. Kentucky's non-conference. I know we've been, people have been pissed about Michigan, but it's really Kentucky, it's Ole Miss. A lot of these teams have just horrible, horrible non-conference schedules. And it's even worse with Kentucky because they're in the SEC East. And then the betting lock, I'm going to go FAU at Purdue, the over 61.5. Purdue is obsessed with throwing the football. FAU is horrible on defense, but they can score. I could see Purdue scoring almost 50 in this, and FAU is going to at least get 20. You could be looking at like a 51-28 type game here. If I was Vegas, I would be setting the over-under at like 66 in this game. This is going to be a very high-scoring football game, in my opinion. I have no idea what's going to happen pretty much every Texas A&M game when they face a decent SEC team, because Texas A&M has a good defense and a really bad offense. And you're taking on an Arkansas team who is a top 10 team who, I mean, my God, you can't be down 10 points in the fourth quarter to an FCS team and remain a top 10 team. That can't happen. But Arkansas is still a top 10 team. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm sure Arkansas is going to play better than they did last week against Missouri State. But yeah, A&M, it's the mixed bag. They're really bad at offense. They're good on defense. They're really talented. We will see if those 5-star true freshmen are back after getting suspended. If I was Jimbo, I don't know what I would do. It's very tough to deal with kids like that because there's some entitlement. I'm sure they've gotten significant NIL money. That's why the whole NIL situation is such a mess. Biggest blowout, Vanderbilt at Bama. Pretty low-hanging fruit here. I want to only pick FBS versus FBS, so I'm not going to pick an FCS team, getting blown out like Pittsburgh over Rhode Island or something like that. Bama, I believe 40-point favorites. The line opened at 38. It's been bet up. Yeah, Vanderbilt is just terrible. I wonder when the last time Vanderbilt has played in Tuscaloosa. That's got to be pretty rare. The parity game, I'm going to go Baylor at Iowa State. So the thought process here is I don't see Iowa State going to 4-0, and I don't see Baylor dropping to 2-2. So if Baylor beats Iowa State on the road, this is a noon game. Maybe is this game on ESPN? I probably is on ESPN because I'm thinking the big noon game is Michigan and Maryland. The ABC game might be Penn State Central Michigan. No, the ABC game is Clemson, Wake Forest, and then this is probably the ESPN game. Or is this the FS1 game? Maybe, it might be, I don't know. But this game, I just don't see Iowa State going to 4-0 and then Baylor dropping to 2-2. So if Baylor wins, both the teams will be 3-1. There's parity within college football, and Baylor's actually 2.5-point underdogs. I love them to cover that spread. We've got game most like the NFL, so lower scoring, close game. Once again, I'm choosing the Texas A&M game against Arkansas. That is a neutral site game. Thank you for everyone who reminded me that game was neutral site and not at Texas A&M. Lowest ratings, so with the lowest ratings, it has to be on an ESPN network, so ABC, ESPN, ESPNU, or ESPN2. This game, Charlotte at South Carolina, is 7:30 on ESPNU. Yikes. I would love to see the ratings on this game. I wonder, you think 400K? I mean, it would just be all South Carolina fans and then a few Charlotte fans. But the 7:30 window with the Ohio State game going on, with other games happening. It is weird this week. Two of the somewhat bigger games, Minnesota, Michigan State, BTN. And then you've got USC and Oregon State, Pac-12 Network. So two of the bigger games are kind of, only regionally broadcasted. So we'll have to see how that works out. But that just kind of tells you it's another week, kind of a bad week for college football in terms of the overall matchups. Just not a lot of huge top 10, top 15 games. The biggest one, I guess, is Arkansas and A&M, and that's a neutral site game. There's not a lot of juice to that. So, guys, that is going to do it for my official college football Week 4 survival guide here. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.